Their journey began in Yasharel, but they were scattered across the face of the earth, each one with its own beat, and each one with its own rhythm. As the dry bones are being revived, the beat begins again at the heart of the tribe.
Hello, hello. My name is Chelle Wagner. Welcome to Heart of the Tribe. I'm so glad that you're either able to join me live today or able to view this recording later. And I hope it's a blessing to you. I've been in the middle of a series of Kings and Prophets, and I'm currently in the book of Isaiah. And today I am celebrating Yom Kippur. So I thought when I went over this and I was going over my notes for this, and I thought this is the perfect day to bring this particular teaching on Isaiah chapters 4 and 5. So I hope it is a blessing to you. So I'm going to go ahead and add the teaching to the screen and we'll get started. Welcome, BW Bailey. Good to have you here. And welcome all who join us today. I know this is kind of spur of the moment. I didn't really announce it. I wasn't for sure that I was going to do this today, but it seems like just the right time. Okay, so looking at Isaiah 4:1. So we're looking at a worldwide famine coming, an utter terror. So I wanted to read it in two different versions. The first version I've got up here is the Sefer. The second is the New Living Translation. So it says out of the Sefer version, and in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by your name to take away our reproach. So this is dealing with the time that the house of Yasharel is getting ready to be taken captive. And the house of Yehuda getting ready to be taken captive also. And so it's this time period of utter terror where they have lost their nation, and the nation that they knew and loved nations at that point have totally fallen apart. Let's look at it in the New Living Translation. It says, in that day, so few men will be left that 7 women will fight for each man, saying, let us all marry you. We'll provide our own food and clothing. Only let us take your name so we won't be mocked as old maids. So we're talking great terror. Many of the men have obviously died, and that this is why the women are approaching the men that are left to say these things, to have some protection. So the rest of Isaiah chapter 4 is full of promises for the remnant that contain biblical symbolism from agricultural terms. And we're going to be looking at a lot of those agricultural terms. All right. And so I hope you'll be able to see the Yom Kippur message in the midst of this as I go through it. Let's start in Isaiah 4:2. In that day shall the branch of Yahweh be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely for them that are escaped of Yasharel. So this branch is a reference here to the work of Mashiach in this instance. Let's look at it in the pictograph. We've got the Zodi, the Mem, and the Het. So in the word picture, we've got the hidden, because that Zodi looks like a man that's lying in wait. He's hidden in the grass, right? You can't quite see him. Hidden in the midst of the chaos. Chaos is the waters, the waves going up and down. It's always symbolic of chaos. Water flows wherever there's the path of least resistance is where water's going. It's chaotic. And then the Het is a wall. It's a wall of separation. So that's what we've got in this picture, is that this Zamak it's a place of hiding, right? He's a place of hiding for us in the midst of chaos. He is a wall of separation, a wall of protection, if you will. Let's look at Jeremiah 33:14-18. It says, behold, the days come, says Yahweh, that I will perform that good thing which I promised unto the house of Yasharel and to the house of Yehudah. In those days and at that time will I cause the branch of righteousness to grow up unto David, and he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. In those days shall Yehudah be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely. And this is the name wherewith she shall be called, Yahuwah Zedekenu. All right. For thus says Yahweh, David shall never want a man to sit upon the throne of the house of Yasharel. Neither shall the priest, the Leviim, want a man before me to offer ascending smoke offerings and to kindle oblations and to do sacrifice continually. He's talking about the coming of Mashiach brings an end to that sacrificial system, right? That is something that we can see from the word of Yah that did change at the coming of Mashiach. Okay, continuing on in Jeremiah 33, 19 through 26. And the word of Yahweh came unto Jeremiah, saying, Thus says Yahweh, if you can break my covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, and that there should not be day and night in their season, then may also my covenant be broken with David, my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Leviim, the priest, my ministers, and the host of heaven cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured. So will I multiply the seed of David, my servant, and the Leviim that minister to me. So let's just keep this in mind as we're reading through. He's going to multiply the seed of David, his servant. Okay. And this is referring to Mashiach on the throne. Okay. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to Jeremiah, saying, Consider you not what this people have spoken, saying, the two families which Yahweh has chosen, he has even cast them off. He's like, what, did you just get rid of them? Thus they have despised my people, that they should no more be a nation before them. Again, we're dealing with the destruction of the house of Yehudah and the house of Yasharel, and they're going into captivity. Thus says Yahweh, if my covenant be not with the day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth, then will I cast away the seed of Yaakov and David my servant, so that I will not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. For I will cause their captivity to return and have mercy on them. When we went through the book of Hosea, we got a big picture look at the fact that he is Yah that scatters into the nations, and he is Yah that will regather up out of the nations. And the closer we get to the day of Yahweh, the day that Yom Kippur is fulfilled, the closer we are to this time period of his regathering his people up out of the nations. Okay. So the branch who is Mashiach is determined to reunite his family. So let's look at one of the things that we're talking about is the fruit, right? So the fruit is describing what's been produced from the seed. The word in Hebrew is pari. It is a pei, a resh, and a yod. Okay, you can see it here. I've got it in the modern. I've got it in the pictograph. We're starting from right to left. We've got the mouth of the pei. We've got the head of the resh. And we've got the working hand of Yah of the Yod. Okay. So what is our word picture if we're going to put it all together? What's the fruit? Okay. The fruit is the breath. Okay. The ruach is the breath. All right. The breath of the chief prince. It's the fruit that he is working and producing. He's the word, which is the seed, and the fruit comes from the seed, right? And what's produced and what is that fruit? It's the wheat, right? So we're going to be looking at the wheat and the tares in a moment. So those who survive, right? All who remain throughout this troublesome period that we're in and entering more fully into, those who remain in Israel will be holy, kadosh. Okay, so what is that word picture? What remains after the chaff has been threshed away. Dosh, I've got it here for us. We've got the kuf over here, and then we've got the word dosh. kadosh, right? Dosh is the word for thresh. The Q or the kuf is what follows the threshing. The kadosh, right, is what after the threshing takes place. This is what remains. The wheat, the chaff has been done away with. All right. Now looking at Isaiah 3 and 4. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remains in Jerusalem shall be called holy, even everyone that is written among the living in Jerusalem. When Adonai shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion, and shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof, by the Ruach Mishpat, which is a spirit of judgment, and by the Ruach Ba'ar, a spirit of burning. I've got a aroma stick for sinuses and stuff that I'm using. My friend Nita made this one for me, and it's mighty handy. Alrighty. So let's look at some correlations here. I see this further explained in Ezekiel 16. So we're going to start in verse 2. It says, Son of Adam, cause Jerusalem to know her abominations, right? He's saying, prophet, go make sure that the people know what it is that they have done that I find absolutely detestable, abominable. And this is what I want you to say. And say, thus says Adonai Yahweh unto Jerusalem, your birth and your nativity is of the land of Canaan. Your father was an Amoree and your mother a Hittite. Now, I'm going to get into that more when I do the book of Ezekiel. I'm going to leave that one as a cliffhanger for a moment, if you will, because that's a very interesting statement all on its own. Into verse 4. And as for your nativity, in the day you were born, your navel was not cut, neither were you washed in water to supple you. You were not salted at all, nor swaddled at all. Right? They were a people of no reputation, no great heritage that could be seen in the natural realm. It says, no eye pitied you to do any of these unto you, to have compassion upon you, but you were cast out into the open field, to the loathing of your person in the day that you were born. What did he call Father Abraham to do but to leave his homeland and go to a land of giants and Nephilim, right? And when I passed by you and saw you polluted in your own blood, I said unto you when you were in your blood, live. Yea, I said unto you when you were in your blood, live. He decided he wanted the people of Yah to live, his people to live. So what's he dealing with when he's talking right here? Yah is what he's trying to deal with right now is our spirit of pride, the pride that we all carry. You know, he's trying basically to right size us. He's saying, listen, I know that you think that you're all this, that you know all these things and that you've got it knowing what to do. But I'm telling you, you don't. All right, my internet's having a little trouble, so hopefully that won't cause us too much trouble. All right, on to the next slide. Isaiah 4, verse 5. And Yahweh will create upon every dwelling place of Mount Zion and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of a flaming fire by night. For upon all the glory shall be a defense, and there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a covert from storm and from rain. Listen, what is he saying? He's going to give his people, no matter what's happening, right? No matter what's happening in this world, as these judgments are poured out upon the nations, there is a place of safety in him. He watches over us. He always provides a place for his people. Okay? He's going to be our glory and our defense. What a promise we have for the day of our living through this day of Yahweh. I love it. I hear in Psalm 91, he really goes into it. And I know that I read a lot of scripture, but I'm not the best at memorizing always. So I'm really trying to memorize Psalm 91 and Psalm 23 because I think they're going to be pivotal for the days that are coming upon us. And I want to make sure that I can recite the words to myself, and to anyone I happen to be with. And so I do think it's a good practice that if you're going to memorize a couple of things out of scripture, these are some really good Psalms to memorize. So let's just think about this one for a minute in light of what he's telling us in Isaiah 4. He says, he that dwells. Okay. So what is that dwelling? It's a place. It's actually described as a place that you go and you just sit down there, right? This is a place you just go and you get in the chair and you don't get up because that's your spot, right? That's your place. I'm going to live there. I'm going to dwell there. I'm going to be there. And what is that secret place, right? There's a secret place within all of us, in our heart, in our mind. It's a place that no matter what this world does, and no matter what this world tries to take away, they can't get to the secret place. It's a place of his glory. It's a place of our yada relationship, the intimacy of a yada relationship. And no one's invited to that place except you and Yahweh alone, right? And if I sit down there, if I seat myself in that place, and the place of my relationship with him, right? That place is with El Elyon. That is the most high, right? There's none higher. There's none better. There's none who can outdo him. No matter what I see, no matter what others say, no matter what's proclaimed, no matter signs and wonders, no one is going to outdo El Elyon. He is the most high, right? So if I'm going to dwell in his secret place, my secret place of relationship with him, right? I'm going to abide. I'm going to have my dwelling place, the place where I live, where I'm seated. It's my home. What is our home? The place I abide. It's a protective shell. It's a place where, the food is kept and the warm bed is and the showers are, and, it's a haven. It's a safety place in this world. It's our nest, right? And so if I'm going to abide, if I'm going to have a new nest, it's going to be underneath the shadow of El Shaddai. That's like, think about how he talks about his wings stretched forth, right? And that we're living underneath the shadow of his wing. This is that place of safety for his people, no matter what's happening on the earth. Okay. I'm going to finish this little part. I just wanted to read Psalm 91, 1-4 in context. He that dwells in the secret place of El Elyon shall abide under the shadow of El Shaddai. I will say of Yahweh, he is my refuge and my fortress, my Elohim. In him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver us. He shall deliver me. I make this very personal, right? Surely he shall deliver me, and he shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler, right? This somebody who's laying a trap for you, right? And from the noisome pestilence, those things that are being created, right? He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you shall trust. His truth, the emet, right? The truth. His truth shall be your shield, right? That also is a place of protection, and buckler, right? Amazing. I love this psalm. Okay, let's get back to Isaiah. Going into Isaiah chapter 5. So Isaiah 5:1. Now will I sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My beloved has a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. All right, so who is this? This is Yeshua that has this vineyard, and he planted it, in a fruitful hill. He gave us a place to where the fruit could reproduce. This is what he's saying. And he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof, right? He took great care to make it a great place for us. And he planted it with the choicest vine. And he built a tower in the midst of it. And he made a wine press therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, right? It should have brought forth the most lush grapes and the best wine possible. But what did it bring forth? It brought forth wild grapes. This goes back to the parable of the seed where the tares were sown, and the vineyard owner is asked the question, Master, didn't you sow good seed in your field? And he says, an enemy has done this, right? This is, how do we think that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil got placed into the garden? This was a seed that the enemy sowed. Okay. I love this picture of this father who's just done all that he could, right? Isaiah 5:3, and now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Yehuda, judge, I pray you between me and my vineyard. He says, have I not done all that I could to try to help? I told him, I put before you today life and death, and I would that you would choose life. But they chose death. Most of them chose death, right? What could I have done more to my vineyard that I've not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, it brought forth wild grapes. So when you look at the Hebrew definition of a wild grape, it is described as a stinkberry, a wild grape. All right. So I wanted to just look at this passage in Romans for a moment. I've got quite a bit of it here, actually, but I do think that it's imperative that we begin to understand how to weave the threads between the Torah, the prophets, the Psalms, and the New Covenant scriptures. We've got to be able to see Yah's consistent message, because no matter what anyone tells you, the message has not changed from Genesis 1:1 to Revelation 22. Right? It doesn't change. He is the same Yah yesterday, today, and forever. And his message does not change or vary. It is the same message from the front of the book to the back of the book. And to understand it in context is what's going to be most beneficial for us. So Romans 11, starting in verse 1 says, I say then, has Elohim cast away his people? Right? This is what we've been talking about. Has he done away with them because of their disobedience? He did cast them into the nations, right? But he will regather them. It says, never. For I also am a Yashareli of the seed of Abraham of the tribe of Benjamin. This is Paul talking, giving his lineage, right? Because he was often, he was sent to the Gentile nations. And can you imagine, he considered himself to be a Jew of the Jews, one of the most learned, and, how dare anybody question his lineage or what he's doing. But he got a revelation when Yahusha showed up on the road to Damascus and knocked him off of his horse and blinded him. Right? He got a new pair of eyes is what happened. He got a new vision, right? So now this is his message after this new vision, because at this time, the only people who had remained in the land was the house of Yehuda, right? The rest of the tribes had been scattered into the nations, and they were scattered until the very end days when they'll be regathered. Yehuda was only scattered into the nations, for say 70 years, and then they were allowed to come back into the land, right? And so he's still in the land, and he's part of the synagogues of the day, and he was very proud of who he was, and he was going to eradicate these rabble rousers that called themselves followers of Yeshua. he was bound and determined he was going to do away with them, right? So here's what he had to say, because this was his new pair of eyes, right? He says, Elohim has not cast away his people, which he foreknew. Know you not what the scripture says of Eliyahu? This is Elijah, right? How he makes intercession to Elohim against Yasharel, saying, Yahweh, they've killed your prophets and dug down your altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life. But what says the answer of Elohim unto him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. You know, when you're ministering in a tough environment, when people do not want to hear what you have to say, and they're la, 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 and not only that, but they want to destroy you, your name, your reputation. They would like to just rip your face off because you are challenging everything that they have hold dear, which is a theology system, right? So this is what he was dealing with, and what he felt like is, I am left alone. I'm doing this all alone. But what Yah says to him is, there's things you don't understand, Elijah. I've got more than just you on the job. You're on the job, but I have a lot more than just you on the job. And it must have felt like this because he had just confronted the 400 prophets of Jezebel. And then when she spoke a word that she was going to kill him, he went running. And so this is what he had to say. He felt so alone, right? But we're not alone. We're never alone. Okay, so even so, at this present time, also there is a remnant according to the election of grace. And I love this, understanding these election of grace. Yah knew us before he formed us in the womb. He knows those who are his. And there is an election of grace, right? It doesn't mean, this is not a license to turn that into a theology that says, I can do whatever I want. And I went down to that altar one time, and at one time I gave my heart to Yah, and now I can just do whatever I feel like doing because, grace, I'm saved. This is a low, this is really, really bad theology. And if you're in a church that is teaching you this, flee. That's all I can say, because that's not going to help you in the days to come. All right. And if by grace, so there is an election of grace, but if by grace, then it is no more of works. And this is right. We cannot work our way into salvation. It is of faith. But I show you my faith by the choices that I make, because I have been given the gift of salvation. Right? This is a reciprocal relationship, right? It's not unrequited love. It is a love affair between a bride and a bridegroom. Okay? It's a bride who wants to do the things that please her husband, her soon-to-be husband, right? And if by grace, then it is no more of works. Otherwise, grace is no more grace. But if it be of works, then it's no more grace. Otherwise, work is no more work. So he's trying to explain this concept, right? What then? Yasharel has not obtained that which he seeks for, but the election has obtained it, and the rest were blinded. Okay, so there are some that have been blinded for a time, and he specifically refers to the house of Yehuda so that the fullness of the Gentiles could come in. According as it is written, Elohim has given them the ruach of slumber, eyes that they should not see and ears that they should not hear unto this day. And David says, let their table be made a snare and a trap and a stumbling block and a recompense unto them. Let their eyes be darkened that they may not see, and bow down their back always. That's a hard road. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Never, but rather through their fall, Yeshua, salvation, is come unto the other nations, for to provoke them to jealousy, right? That's what this, our keeping all these, perhaps Gentiles that are no longer Gentiles, that have come into the household of Yasharel and now are a part of the greater commonwealth of Israel. And what the house of Yehuda has seen us as Gentiles, our lifestyle of this love affair with the Mashiach, of knowing that the atonement has been granted us, that a way has been made for us when there was no way. This should be a provocation unto jealousy, to say, what is this close, loving relationship with El Elyon, with the God of the universe, with the Creator that I see in your life? It should be provoking to jealousy. Now, if the fall of them be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the other nations, how much more their fullness? For I speak to you, other nations, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the other nations. See, he was sent to the other nations, the Gentile nations. I magnify my office. If by any means I may provoke to emulation, right? Emulation is to be a copycat, right? Them which are of my flesh, and might save some of them. He's saying, I hope that I provoke them to a jealousy that says, I want to have what Paul has. I want that whatever peace he's got in his life, this love and this joy and this peace, this fruit of the Spirit, that I hope that this is supposed to provoke to jealousy, right? For if it may save some of them, is what he's saying. For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, right? For Yah didn't desire for any, he doesn't rejoice in the destruction of the wicked. He doesn't desire for any to perish, but that all might come to know him. Now, it won't happen that way, but that was his desire, right? But he gave us free will. Okay? For if the casting away of them be the reconciling of the world, what shall the receiving of them be but life from the dead? Like for to have been doing the Torah commandments, but without the heart in it, without the heart of understanding in it, and for that to start coming alive and to embrace Mashiach, who gives us life, it is coming back, life from the dead. Right? It's a raising from the dead of his people. For if the first fruit be holy, the lump is also holy. And if the root be holy, so are the branches. And if some of the branches be broken off, and you, being a wild olive tree, were grafted in among them, and with them partake of the root and the fatness of the olive tree. Right? This is what's happening. I wanted to just show this grafting in process in the middle for a minute, right? So it's called a scion, which is also, when you break it down, is the word zion in Hebrew. So what happens, right? A side cut is made into the branch of the tree in which you wish to begin a new branch. A shoot or a scion, a zion, is taken from the other tree. It is cut into the shape of a wedge to insert it into the side cut of the tree you wish it to become a part of. The scion, also known as an air, I love this, an air is then bound to the stalk. In this way, it becomes a joint air. Amazing. I love it how we can see all the agricultural examples that Yah gives us through his word of how it works in his kingdom, right? All right, back to Romans for a moment here. So Romans 11:18 says, boast not against the branches, but if you boast, you bear not the root, but the root bears you, right? But the root, you. You will say then, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief, they were broken off. And you stand by faith. Be not high-minded, but fear, right? This is the fear of Yahweh that we're to have in our life. That's one of the ruachs that he gave us as the bridegroom, found in Isaiah 11:2. Okay, the fear of Yahweh. It's we're to have a holy reverence for him. He's to be above all else, right? If you fear him, there is no one else that you fear, or nothing else that you fear, right? That's how to know. Am I living in the fear of Yahweh? Well, does fear of anything else have rulership over me? If that answer is yes, then no, we have not perfected that fear of Yahweh. And I would say that we're all there, because there's all things. But when I see fears popping up in my life, and a tendency to get into worry about this or that or the other, and what if, and whatnot, or be anxious, this is what I take myself back to. I say, okay, you're not living in that ruach that he gave you as a gift, as the bridegroom. You're not truly entered into the fear of Yahweh and living that out in your life. So let's concentrate on that. Let's go to that and see if we can do better and come up higher in that. So he says, be not high-minded, but fear. For if Elohim spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not you. Behold, therefore, the goodness and severity of Elohim on them which fell. Severity, but toward you, goodness, right? There was a severity that's on those that have fallen away. But he has poured out on his goodness on those of us who by faith have come into relationship with him. So it says, if you continue in his goodness, otherwise you also shall be cut off. So this whole thing about once saved, always saved, if you're underneath a church that's teaching that, again, run away because it's a lie. That is, we work out our salvation with fear and trembling. It's right there in Romans. I'm not teaching out of the Old Testament. I'm teaching out of the Besorah. I'm teaching out of the New Covenant scriptures, right? And it says, if you continue in his goodness, but if you don't, you also shall be cut off, right? And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For Elohim is able to graft them in again. For if you were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree. Why does he say that? The natural progression would be to take good branches and from a cultivated tree and graft them into a wild olive tree in order to get to tame the wild. But he's saying contrary to nature, it's been done the other way, right? I love it. Yah does things always in a way that's unexpected, right? And they also, if they abide not still in unbelief, shall be grafted in, for Elohim is able to graft them in again. For if you were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these, which be the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree again? Because they're already the natural branches, right? Romans 11:25-29. For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, because it is a mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits. Again, he's dealing with pride, right? That the blindness in part is happened to Yasharel until the fullness of the other nations come in. He's just giving a chance to all, right? And so all Yasharel shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away wickedness from Yaakov. This is the whole house of Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins, as concerning the Besorah, the good news, the gospel message, right? You know, what's in the seed in the house of Sarah. That's the good news. That when you're looking at the Hebrew, I'm sorry, I can sometimes go into the Hebrew without having the Hebrew in front of you, but that's what that is, right? The Besorah. It is in Sarah. They are, so as concerning the Besorah, they are enemies for your sakes, but as touching the election, they are beloved for the Father's sakes. For the gifts and callings of Elohim are without repentance. Amazing. For as ye in times past have not believed Elohim, yet have now obtained mercy through their unbelief. They didn't believe, but through mercy, they're going to come, many will come to a place of faith. Even so have these also now not believed, that through your mercy they also may obtain mercy. We're to have a merciful spirit. That is one of the fruits of knowing that you are that you have partaken of the word, the seed, right? The seed, which is the word. In the beginning, the word was, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God, right? And he is the seed. The word is the seed. And if we partake of that seed, our life bears his fruit, right? It produces after the seed, which is where the joy and the goodness and the peace and the patience and the love and the kindness and the long suffering, all these things come in. That's what it is. All right. It's the fruit. All right. Where was I? All right. I'm going to start in verse 30. For as ye in times past have not believed Elohim, yet now have obtained mercy through their unbelief, even so have these also now not believed, that through your mercy they also may obtain mercy. For Elohim has concluded them all in unbelief, that he might have mercy upon all. Oh, the depth and riches, both of the wisdom, the chokmah, right? And knowledge, the da'et. This back again, this is pointing back to Isaiah 11:2. This is the gift that we were given at Shavuot in Acts 2 when the fire fell. Right? It wasn't just about speaking in tongues, right? But it was about obtaining the gifts of the bridegroom, knowledge, counsel, wisdom, right? These are his gifts to us. How unsearchable are his judgments and his ways, past finding out. For who has known the mind of Yahweh, or who has been his counselor? Again, the spirit of counsel, right there, right? Or who has first given to him, and it shall be recompensed unto him again. For of him, and through him, and to him are all things, to whom be glory forever. Amen. All right, we're back into Isaiah. So Isaiah 5:5 says, and now go, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, right? He's going to say, I'm going to take away the wall of protection. Why? Because of sin, because of unbelief, because they refuse to do things his way, right? And it shall be eaten up and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. This is our heritage. This is our history. This is what has happened in the household of Yasharel. And I will lay it waste, and it shall not be pruned nor dug, but there shall come up briars and thorns. And I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. For the vineyard of Yahweh Zavaot is the house of Yasharel. We are the vineyard, right? The household is his vineyard. And it's the whole house. It's all 12 tribes. And the men of Yehudah, a pleasant plant unto him. And he looked for judgment, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. I want you to pay attention to where it says, that he takes down the hedge, and what comes up in it are briars and thorns. This is really important to understand the word from beginning to end. So I want to share with you a little bit about these briars and thorns, and about the vineyard, and about what it is that's being attacked, right? From the powers and principalities, from the rebellious ones, from the ones who can't destroy Yah. So they're going to try to destroy his people, right? So let's look at this from that perspective. We're in 1 Kings 21, starting in verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that Naboth the Yisraeli had a vineyard, which was in Yisrael. It's like the valley of Jezreel, right? Is how we would translate that. Hard by the place of Akav, king of Shamron. This is King Ahab of Samaria, right? And Akav spoke unto Naboth, saying, give me your vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house, and I will give you for it a better vineyard than it. Or if it seem good to you, I'll give you the worth of it in money, right? This would be described as filthy lucre for the vineyard, right? This was Naboth's heritage. This was his family inheritance. And this was very, very important, your heritage and what had been given to you. So here's what Naboth says. Naboth says to Akav, to King Ahab, Yahuwah forbid it me, that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto you. And Akav came into his house heavy and displeased, because the word which Naboth the Yisraeli had spoken to him, for he had said, I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers. And he laid him down upon his bed and turned away his face, and he would eat no bread, right? What was he doing? He was sulking and pouting because he didn't get his way. But Jezebel, okay, Queen Jezebel, his woman, came to him and said unto him, why is your ruach so sad that you eat no bread? She's like, what's wrong with you? And he said unto her, because I spoke unto Naboth the Yisraeli, and said unto him, give me your vineyard for money, or else if it please you, I will give you another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give you my vineyard. And Jezebel, his woman, said unto him, do you now govern the kingdom of Yasharel? She's like, what in the world is wrong with you? You're the king. Arise and eat bread, and let your heart be merry. I will give you the vineyard of Naboth the Yisraeli. All right. So we already know from the clash with Elijah and when he slew 400 of her prophets, right? She's after the prophetic, right? She's going after that. So look at this. This is very interesting where this is concerned. Naboth is the Hebrew is Nun Bet Vav Tav. Okay. The Brown Driver Briggs describes it as fruits. Okay. So his very word means fruits. The root word is nub, which would be Nun, Vav, and Bet. I reversed it on the pictograph. Forgive me. I'll have to fix that one, but the modern is correct. So the etymology means to flow forth, right? So it's something that's going forward, right? A gradation variant is something that a term for understanding certain things in Hebrew. So a gradation variant in Hebrew are words that are in the same family. So they are close relatives. In this case of this word Naboth, a gradation variant is the word nabah, right? And so I've got it there in the Hebrew. I forgot to put it in English, but it is nabah. It is a nun, a bet, and an aleph, which is the word for prophet. So the fruit was the prophetic voice. So the etymology of the word is to prophesy, to transmit Yah's word. This clearly shows us waiting for my internet to come back up. If you're wondering why I'm silent for a minute, I can see it just like blanks out on my screen. So anyway, this clearly shows what Jezebel was after. She wanted to possess the word, the seed, right? The seed of prophecy, right? Why did she want to do it? It's always because who is that seed? Yeshua. She wanted the vineyard so that she could stop the coming of Mashiach. That's what she was after. So it clearly shows this, that she wanted to possess the word of prophecy so she could restrain it. She could overpower it with her message of apostasy and her agenda, right? That's what was going on. I learned that from the late Brad Scott in his book called, let me see, I think it's right here. Hold on, I want to show it to you. It's called The Tares Among the Wheat. This is a great book, and you can still get it from www.wildbranch.org. I'll try to remember to go back and put a link to that in there. If you buy one book this year, get this one. Wow. This is such a good book, and it explains so much about the tares among the wheat. It really digs in. If you love Hebrew and you want to understand these difficult things today, I love this book. I just can't believe what all I've learned from it. All right. Okay, so now I wanted to share with you something out of another book that I really love. It's Robert L. Cates and his book, An Introduction to the Old Testament and Its Study. It really gave me a great starting point to examine the major themes that are in the book of Isaiah. So I just wanted to read this part, and hopefully this will carry on as I get all the way through 12, because today we're only doing 4 and 5, right? But let me read to you what he had to say. He says, Isaiah 1:1 through 12:6 contains sermons dealing with the kingdoms of Judah and Israel that include the indictment of Judah and a naming of the sins, which were rebellion, harlotry, pretend worship, and murder and judgment for such, right? So, not having a true heart of worship, but doing things by rote. The harlotry was going after other Elohims, not being loyal and committed in a yada relationship with Elohim alone, who had rescued them and with their creator, but going after the little g's, the little gods, the little Elohims of the other nations and worshiping them, right? Which was all around them. So so the theme is they're going to experience judgment become as this. Yes, that's right. B.W. Bailey, let me hold it up again. It is called The Tares Among the Wheat. And it even has a subtitle that says Revealing the Restrainer from the Beginning by Bradford Scott. And wow, it is fantastic. I'm glad you asked, because it's so worth getting. All right. So it's talking about the judgment that's going to come because of these things. So a contrast between the present day Jerusalem and the future Jerusalem, which is a parallel to Micah's message of Micah chapter 4, 1 through 4, with no way of knowing who had the prophecy first. I mean, that's when I'm doing these with all the prophets, you really just don't know, they were contemporaries. So you don't know who said what first, right? Okay, the great day of the judgment of Yahweh, the folly of the life Judah has chosen, the oppression of the poor, and a description of how the haughty women will be humbled, the promise of restoration of Yerushalayim, the song of the vineyard in chapter 5 is a parable which contrasts Yah's great care for his people and their preference for evil instead. The following verse shows the play on the words in the Hebrew. All right, so let's look at that. I'm in Isaiah 5:7. It says, For the vineyard of Yahweh Zevaot is the house of Yasharel, and the men of Yehuda his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. right? So we've got, I just put the words here for you so that you could see the words and the pictographs. I didn't do a lot to dig into that because I had so much more, and I knew that this message was going to be long because I've been talking almost an hour and I still have more. So this is more out of this book from Brad Scott with the briars and the thorns, right? So briars is the word shamir. All right. It's a shin, a mem, a yod, and a resh. Okay. Thorns is shayith, and it is a shin, a yod, and a tav. Okay. And I have it here where you can see, here's the website for Brad Scott so that you can see where to go and get his book. So in chapter 5, this is what he had to say. And I've got several slides kind of where I took some stuff from his book. So this is where this is coming from. Matthew, he says in Matthew 13:7, it says, and some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. Do you suppose that this parable is just a clever, poetic way of teaching eternal abstract truths? I think not. Actually, Yeshua is drawing his testimony through parables from agricultural principles in the Torah, the writing, and the prophets, just like Yochanan told us in Hit Galut. So what he's referring to is the book of Revelation. Give me a moment. My mouth is very dry, so I'm spilling my essential oils to help that along. I believe he fully expects his servants to already know these things, but since the majority of his servants have corrupted or done away with the beginning, he has to restore the understanding of these things in the latter days. There are almost a dozen Hebrew words behind the English word thorns in scriptures. This is because thorns are abundant in the fields of the world. They are everywhere. They are a broad gate, if you will. Thorns are one of those things revealed right from the beginning. In Genesis 3:17 and 18, it says, and unto Adam he said, because you've hearkened unto the voice of your woman, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for your sake, in sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. What did Ahab, I'm just now seeing this myself, what did Ahab want to give Naboth for his vineyard? He wanted to give him an herb field instead, right? You can eat the herbs, right? I want to take away the seed, but you can give the herbs. Here we've got another connection right here to that story back in Genesis, right? Brad Scott and Bill Cloud, I started listening to both of them 22 years ago, and all of them have always, what I learned from their teaching all this time for these decades is, if you want to understand prophecy, understand Genesis. If you understand Genesis, because more prophecies contained in the book of Genesis than all the rest of the other books combined, right? And so everything's pointing back to these prophetic pictures that are in Genesis. Okay. So this is from Brad's book. We must remember the context here. His own people sinned when they ate of the tree, which the Creator told them not to eat from. And the results were passed on to all of us. Consequently, the ground is going to produce thorns and thistles. They could have obeyed their father and lived as a cultivated tree in paradise with all their needs met. But instead, they chose to sin, and the result is thorns. Thorns are associated with disobedience and a refusal to hear from the beginning. This theme and use of this word will be consistent until the end. In Ezekiel 2:1 and 2, it says, and he said unto me, Son of Adam, stand upon your feet, and I will speak unto you. And the Ruach entered into me when he spoke unto me, and set me upon my feet, that I heard him that spoke unto me. And he said unto me, Son of Adam, Now I'm reading Ezekiel 2, 3 through 10. Son of Adam, I send you to the children of Yasharel, to a rebellious nation that has rebelled against me. They and their fathers have transgressed against me, even unto this very day. For they are impudent children and stiff-hearted, like their hearts are like stone. I do send you unto them, and you shall say unto them, Thus says Adonai Yahweh. And they, whether they will hear and whether they will forbear, for they are a rebellious house, yet shall know that there has been a prophet among them. I love this because he's saying, whether they listen or not is not your responsibility. You speak the word, and they're going to realize that a prophet has been among them. Whether when you have a message of the words of Yah, right, they'll know. You don't have to go around proclaiming yourself of what your title is. Your behavior and your words will let it be known, right? And you, son of Adam, be not afraid of them. Neither be afraid of their words. Though briars and thorns be with you. Right there it is, right? And you do dwell among scorpions. Be not afraid of their words, nor be dismayed at their looks, though they be a rebellious house. And you shall speak my words unto them, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are most rebellious. But you, son of Adam, hear what I say unto you. Be not rebellious like the rebellious house. Open your mouth and eat that which I give you. And I love it. I'm using the Sefer here because it restores the Aleph Tavs, which is it's Yeshua. He is the Aleph and the Tav. So what's he telling them to eat? It's the scroll. It's the message of Yeshua, Yahusha. And when I looked, behold, a hand was sent unto me, and lo, a roll of a sefer was therein. And he spread it before me, and it was written within and without, and there was written therein lamentations, mourning, and woe. All right, now let's see some more out of other examples of this. Here's one, 2 Samuel 23:6. But the sons of Belial shall be all of them as thorns. So who are the thorns? They're the sons of Baal. It says it right here in 2 Samuel 23:6. We can see it. They're from the seed of their father, Hasatan, the devil. This is what the indictment was when John said in the wilderness, said, who warned you to flee the destruction that's coming? And he called them sons of vipers, right? This is what was going on there. So we can see these are the thorns. They're considered thorns. In Matthew 7:15 through 20, beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? He's saying the thorn bush is never going to produce grapes, right? Because it's a tear. It's not going to produce fruit. And figs, a wonderful fruit, they are never going to grow out of a thistle bush, right? They're going to come from a fig tree. It has to be from the correct seed. Even so, every good tree brings forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree brings forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that brings not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire, right? The fires of what? The fires of hell. Wherefore by their fruits you shall know them. Right? This is how we can tell who is who. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. There's the wolf on my little PowerPoint. He's all dressed up like a sheep. They're right in the midst. So Now, this is a final quote from Brad's book. It says, as thorns are to the wheat and the field, so is our adversary to the children of the Most High. Likewise, one of the two seeds of the field, the world, will produce fruit, and the other will produce thorns. Thorns are spoken of often in Scripture and are referred to more frequently than one might think. It is the image used by our Father in his warning to the children of Israel as they trek to the promised land. So far, the images of the other seed are found in the field as tares, thorns, and thistles, and will be found in the midst of the wheat. So he's saying wherever you see wheat, you're going to be sure to find thorns and thistles and tares. They're there every time. All right, back to Isaiah 5, verse 8. Woe unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field, till there be no place that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. I believe that this is a direct warning to us right now. What are we about to try to be pushed into? Smart cities, 15-minute cities. That's where all the convenience is going to be, right? That's where all the, you want to live life easily. That's what the system is going to, through the midst, that's going to be their answer. That's going to be how they're saying, oh, peace and safety, right? It's you can have all the peace and safety you need. We'll have things drone delivered right to your door. You just have to take this little mark and pledge allegiance to the system and to the beast in order to have it. And if you'll do that, all your needs will be met. So he's saying, woe to them that do this, right? This is not a good idea. Isaiah 5, 9 and 10. And my ears said, Yahweh Zavaot, of a truth, many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair, without inhabitant. Yea, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield one bat, and the seed of a homer shall yield an ephah. He's saying the fruit harvest is going to be low. low. He's a famine, and a famine for the word. Isaiah 5, 11 and 12. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflame them, and the harp and the viol, the tabret and the pipe and wine are in their feast, but they regard not. See the Aleph Tav on the PowerPoint? They regard not Aleph Tav, the work of Yahweh, neither consider the operation of his hands. I mean, it's just party on. Isaiah 5:13. Therefore my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. So what do they have? They don't have the Ruach Da'at. They have not received that from the bridegroom. But if you belong to him, it's been given to you. It's knowledge, right? It's a dalet, an ayin, and a tav. Isaiah 11:2. And the Ruach Yahweh shall rest upon him, the Ruach Chokmah, which is wisdom, Binah, which is understanding, Etzah, which is counsel, Gevurah, which is might, the Ruach Da'ath, which is knowledge, and the Yirah of Yahweh, which is the fear of Yahweh. Knowledge, perception. So we're looking at Da'at. The Brown Driver Briggs says this is perception, skill, it's discernment, right? It's having a knowledge that doesn't come from this world. So Proverbs 1:7 says the fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom, they despise hokmah, and they despise instruction, which would be another, like etzah, counsel, right? So if you are one of Dr. Monzo's Aleph Tav body students, this correlates to cycle 6, and all of his students will understand what I'm saying. Look in his book and look at this. This is what you want to start understanding with these is these ruachs that correspond to these cycles. It'll make them come much more alive for you. All right. It also aligns with Yom Kippur. If you put this on the menorah, you can take these 7 ruachs, place them on the menorah, and the ruach da'ath, knowledge, would line up with the feast of Yom Kippur. It's about having an understanding about Yah and his perfect judgments and his right in how he is right in pouring out his judgments. You know, when I started seeing this and I saw what was coming upon the nations and that we really were at this time period, it really hit me in 2020. You know, when I saw what was happening and I was like, we are so there, and it's going to begin to pour out. And I was like, gosh, I don't know, you know, how I'm going to even begin to handle this in my spirit. I've got to get on my face and ask you to help me to wrap my brain around this and open up my hands before you with everything that I think I hold dear in this life. And the prayers that he led me to was, you know what, even considering everything that I'm seeing that's coming, to proclaim that he is righteous and he is right and he is just. He is absolutely good and tov and perfect in his timing and in his ways and in his choices of how he chooses to unleash judgment upon the nations. And that means no matter what happens to my life, to those that I care about's lives, he knows. He knows. And I've got to trust him with that. And I can, getting to that place of peace, of accepting where we're at in the world. That's where my peace is. I mean, that, you know, that's where it's coming from. He told me that my biggest weapon in my warfare basket was shalom. And shalom, that wholeness, can only come from being okay with his choices, no matter what they are, and no matter what that means for my life or the people that I love. Because I believe more in his kingdom and his eternity. And I've got to understand, I am having a spiritual experience right now in this body of flesh. This body of flesh will go away, but I am an eternal being and I've got eternity to live out. So I have to accept things as they are, as they play out. And I can't unthrone him because I don't particularly like. It's not my flavor. It's not my choice. It's not what I would choose, right? I don't get to do that. He's either on the throne of my heart or he's not. And for me, he is. He is. And it's no matter what. No matter what. All right. So yada is a word which is related to this, and it's an intimate knowledge, right? Okay. Philippians 1, 9 through 11. Thank you, Mary Allen. I appreciate that. And this I pray, that your love may abound yet more and more in knowledge and in all judgment. This is what it means, you know, that the more we see happening, Paul has prayed for us that we might be more settled. The more we see it happening, the more we see it coming, may our hearts be settled, that ye may approve things that are excellent, and that ye may be sincere and without offense, because this is the big thing I see, right? Hi, John. Good to see you, my friend. No picking and choosing how we serve Yahweh. Absolutely, my brother. That you may approve things that are excellent, that you may be sincere and without offense to the day of Mashiach, being filled with the fruits of righteousness, which are by Yahushua HaMashiach, unto the glory and praise of Elohim. You know, this thing, offense, has been it's a big thing. And so many of us, and I'm going to talk about me, can get so trapped by that thing. And that's literally what it is. It is, when you take it back to the Greek, it is, offense is the bait that is put in an animal husbandry trap, right? And when you reach in to pick it up, you're trapped by the enemy by it. The enemy clamps onto you. And this is what happens in all of our relationships. Something happens, we get offended, and then we're trapped by the enemy, and we don't know how to just get back out of it. And for me, I know that I am so guilty of this, and I'm really working on that in my own life so that the enemy can't use that against me. So that if something, I'm looking to develop that fruit of long suffering and kindness and compassion in my life, that when something happens between me and another brother or sister in the fellowship and in the faith, that I can humble myself and realize that I don't need to take the trap of offense and ruin in a relationship, when I could pray it through, be more patient, not be impulsive, give it time. Let's see how things play out, and learn how to get past some of these things, because the enemy is using this against us all. This is why we've got so much division going on in his kingdom and in his people. And we've got to get to the place where we stop taking the bait of offense. And I say we, but I put me as first one. I'm talking to myself. I am preaching this message to me because I need to get this deep, deep, deep in my heart, so that the enemy cannot circumvent my destiny in Yah and what he has for me to do on this earth, by using my emotions of getting offended and this, that, and the other, all of which, as a little time passes from whatever the situation was that caused such great offense, within a couple of months, it seems stupid, right? That, at least in my case, so many of them. And it's like, I've got to, and I hope we all do, get to where we're wise to this trick of the enemy, and it stops tearing apart our relationships. Okay, next slide. Isaiah 5:14. Therefore, Sheol has enlarged herself and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoices shall descend into it. This is why we've got to get over it. I don't want one person to not hear Yah's word because I caused an offense or I had an offense, right? I don't want this to be what's happening. Okay. So I put the Psalm 23 strategy next to these verses, Isaiah 5:15 through 17. This is that one I want to memorize and wrap my heart and my brain around and take with me, even if I don't have a Bible to go with me. I want this so deep inside of me that no matter where he leads me, this is always in my heart, and it's part of my sword, right? My defense weapon. Isaiah 5:15 through 17 says, and the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. Why? Because they're going to have to watch me eat a banquet table of peace and shalom and good in the midst of them trying to shoot every arrow that they can at me and to bring me down. And I'm hidden in this place of Yah, right? In my heart, in my mind, in my ruach, right? And they can't, no matter what they're shooting at me, I'm still banqueting at a table. But Yahweh Zavaot shall be exalted in judgment, and El, that is holy, shall be sanctified in righteousness. Then shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall strangers eat. I mean, it says that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. I can't wait to see what Yah does in the midst of all this. All right. Going on with Isaiah 5:18 through 23. We're dealing with 4 woes being poured out. Woe unto them that draw iniquity with cords of vanity, and sin, as it were, with a cart rope, that say, let him make speed and hasten his work, that we may see it. And let the counsel of the Holy One of Yasharel draw nigh and come, that we may know it. There are some that are just saying they're tired, they're worn out, bring on the day of Yahweh. And there's the rebellious saying, bring on the day of Yahweh. Let's have this showdown. It's Psalm 2, right? That cast the cords away from me, bring it on, Yah. It's that rebellious spirit. And he says, woe, woe unto you, right? In 5:20, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. I mean, I'm looking at this LGBTQ plus agenda and the strong arm tactics. And I tell you, this is bully tactics. I recognize bullies when I see them. It's not that they just want to be free and be accepted and love is love. It's not that. It's we want to strangle the life out of you till you do it our way, till we change everything in your society because we hate you and we hate your God. That's what it is. It's a bully tactic. Resist it. Woe unto them. 5:21, woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight, And that's that voice coming at us. Well, don't you trust the science? Aren't you going to be a good neighbor? Do you want to endanger your fellow citizens? Right? There it is. Woe unto them. 5:22 and 23. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward, and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. I mean, I'm looking at this pharmakia agenda and what's being done through, you all know, I can't even say it here because censorship, but you all know. I see it in the pharmakia. I see it in the drug trafficking cartels, which are mainly run by our government and governments all over the world. Woe unto them. All righty, Isaiah 5:24. Therefore, as the fire devours the stubble and the flame consumes the chaff, so their root shall be as rottenness and their blossom shall go up as dust, because they've cast away et, the Aleph Tav, the Torah of Yahweh Zavaot. And Aleph Tav despised the word, who is Aleph Tav, right? The word of the Holy One of Yasharel. This is why the woes come. It's a casting away of Yah himself, of Yeshua himself, who is the word. Therefore is the anger of Yahweh kindled against his people, and he has stretched forth his hand against them and has smitten them. And the hills did tremble, and their carcasses were torn in the midst of the streets. For all this, his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. This is his judgments. And when I read this, all I could see was this letter Yod in the pictograph. The Hebrew letter Yod is symbolic for his strength and his power. 5:26, and he will lift up an ensign to the nations from far, and he will hiss unto them from the end of the earth. And behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. Now I put up this picture here with the pitchforks and the machetes and the hammers and whatnot, because to me it screams civil war. And because of the infighting that's going on in this nation in particular, it's going to open up a way for our enemies, because it's going to weaken us. And this is going to happen in this nation. This is how Yah's judgment is going to be ushered in. One of the avenues of judgment that's going to hit, particularly the United States of America. And so I can see this. This is the reason why I'm so heartbroken, and I want to make sure that those of us of the household of Yasharel, that we're figuring out how to get over our differences, because we're going to need each other. and we're going to need to be able to come together. And even if we don't agree on everything and the timing of things, and all the different nuances, we've got to be able to disagree agreeably, to be in the bigger picture, and let Yah straighten out our small differences, but let our big thing be our love for Yeshua and our love for one another. And I'm praying that we can get there. I'm praying for that this Yom Kippur. That's one of the things I'm praying for. Isaiah 5:27 through 30. None shall be weary nor stumble among them. None shall slumber nor sleep. Neither shall the belt of their loins be loosed, nor the latchet of their shoes be broken, whose arrows are sharp. This is the enemy that's going to be sent, right, to deal with the rebelliousness. Whose arrows are sharp and all their bows bent. Their horses' hooves shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. That word whirlwind is like a tornado, right? Their roaring shall be like a lion. They shall roar. And it also is Sair, that word whirlwind. So it's like a tornado, but it's Sair. It's like a Pan, the goat demon. It's a direct connection back to Esau, okay? Their roaring shall be like a lion. They shall roar like young lions. Yea, they shall roar and lay hold of the prey, and shall carry it away safe, and none shall deliver it. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea, right? The restless masses of humanity. And if one look unto the land, behold, darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkened in the heavens thereof. I wish I understood even more of what that meant. All right. Well, the next time I come back will be, I think I'm doing one on 1 Kings 17 before I come back with more on Isaiah. But I'm going to be coming back soon with even more really digging into this ascension of Isaiah. I hope, you guys, that this has been a message that gives you hope and strength, because there's always hope for his people. But the reality is we've got some difficult things in front of us. And let's learn how to love each other, get along with each other, lift each other up, and further the kingdom of Yah. So I thank you, those of you who were able to join me live. I thank you for your comments and your participation. I also thank all of you who are going to watch it later. I pray that this is a blessing to you. All righty. And with that, I will wish you shalom.
Their journey began in Yasharel, but they were scattered across the face of the earth, each one with its own beat, and each one with its own rhythm. As the dry bones are being revived, the beat begins again at the heart of the tribe.